welcome to African Hour, coming to you from LTC Studio A on Market Street in Lowell. My name is Fru Nkimbe. Celebrating our 10th anniversary on the air, I have a special guest here to interview, Mr. Jim Wilde, the Executive Director of Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership.
Hi,
Jim,
Fru.
welcome.
Thanks very much for having me.
I'd like to begin by asking you to tell us a little bit about Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership.
Okay, sure. Let's see, the organization itself is 26 years old, and I've been the director for 20 years. This is my 20th year, and the mission of the organization is to promote home ownership opportunities for low and moderate income earners. So we started off in the very early years working primarily as developers, and we built 3 housing complexes, 2 of them here in Lowell, 1 of them in Lawrence, and then sold all the units off to first-time home buyers. And that was until the early 90s. The organization started in 1986. And then when I joined the organization in 1992, it was a time of transition, and I was hired as an interim director, and we were still on the track of working as developers. But at that time, there was a housing downturn. So similar to what we have been experiencing in the last few years, the property values had taken a big dive. It became very difficult to sell property, even for what the cost of constructing it. So the organization at that time really had to have a reevaluation a reassessment of itself, and trying to identify how we could still address our mission without constructing property. And that's where the idea of doing homebuyer education came about. So very much as an experiment, we started off with this program called Project Genesis, which we've kept the name all these years, Genesis, the beginning, and that's become the main focus of what we've been doing for the last 20 years. So, and Project Genesis is a really comprehensive training program for first-time home buyers to teach people everything from A to Z about what homeownership is all about, how to prepare for it, how to make good choices, how to select the right professionals, how to save, budget, plan, so you're financially ready to qualify for a mortgage. And so that's really been the main focus, and we've never really gone back to development. And so it's a wonderful organization. The real key to our success is all the partnerships that we've developed over the years. We work with lots of other organizations and real estate professionals and lenders and other groups so that we reach all the different communities in the city.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know you've briefly touched on this. I would like you to actually focus on explaining to our viewers and audience what is the Project Genesis all about.
Okay. The class itself is it's 10 hours long. We do it in either 4 evening sessions that are 2.5 hours each, or we also do them in 2 5-hour classes on the weekends, on Saturdays. And it's and what we do in those classes, the first thing we do is an overview of the home buying process. That takes about an hour. We explain who all the real estate professionals are, the lenders, attorneys, the home inspectors, the real estate brokers, and what the appraisers do, what the insurance people do. So we explain who everybody is, who they work for, how they get compensated, where their loyalties are. Then we talk about the process itself, from taking a class to getting pre-qualified for a mortgage, to shopping for a property, to making offers, to having home inspections, to entering into purchase and sale agreements, to buying insurance, to going to the closing, and to moving. And so so that's kind of the first step, is to really sort of set the stage so people know what it's all about, sort of demystify it. And when you think about it, I mean, buying a house is probably the most expensive thing that most people will buy in a lifetime. Mm-hmm. It's a complicated process, it's emotional, costs a lot of money, and So it can really be overwhelming. So the class really brings people down to earth, calms them down, and helps them to put together a really logical plan for how they're going to approach this. And so after we do the overview and we do the identification of all the professionals, then we start bringing guests in. We bring a lender in who will talk about the mortgage application process. They'll talk about all the different types of mortgages, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, MHA, mass housing, portfolio loans, conventional loans. And so we'll talk about all the different types of lenders, from commercial banks to credit unions to smaller local banks to mortgage companies. So we'll talk about all the different aspects of mortgage financing and what the choices are. We'll bring in a home inspector who will talk about the legal aspects of purchasing a property. I'm sorry, about the conducting a home inspection. So once somebody makes an offer on a property, but before they go through with the purchase, they're able to hire an independent home inspector to come out and look at the house from top to bottom and tell them the physical condition of the property so they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. That's, looking at the roof, the heating system, the plumbing, the electrical, whether it has radon or lead paint or asbestos or water, and so many different things to know about, so they really know, so they know their home and whether they want to go through with it, because every house has problems. And so then after the home inspector, we have an attorney that comes in and talks about all the legal aspects of purchasing, the offer to purchase as a contract, the purchase and sale agreement as a contract. We talk about deposits, how a lot of those contracts are inherently written in favor of sellers, so it's really in a buyer's best interest to have their own attorney review those contracts and explain them in more detail and rewrite certain things so that they best protect the buyer and his or her deposit. We talk about things like title insurance and the Homestead Act, and we also talk about some basic financial planning, the importance of having a will, a healthcare proxy, a power of attorney, and then what happens at the closing itself, who holds the closing, how long does it take, what are the different components of it. Because that's where the person becomes the owner and signs their name probably 40 times and initials it probably 150 times and leaves with no money and a set of keys and a mortgage. And then we have, we have the real estate broker come in and talk about the role of the broker. There are buyer agents and there are seller agents. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about the difference and why it's so important for a buyer to work with a buyer agent. And the real estate broker's job is to find the person the right house and to help them negotiate. The real estate broker's job is not to line up their financing, to do their legal work or anything like that. So what we do is we really try to teach people the importance of putting together the right team of players. So before they look at property, before they go anywhere and do anything, before they go to an open house, before they start thinking about what they want to buy, they start at the bank and find out, their finances. Are they qualified for mortgage? What's their price range? We help them think through whether buying a condominium is better than buying a single-family house, or maybe they're interested in becoming a landlord and buying a 2 or 3 family house. Very different lifestyle choices, and so we hope to have the buyer really prepared so that by the time they're ready to look for a property, they've got their financing lined up, they know what they want to buy, and then they go to the real estate broker, and the real estate broker will love them because they're prepared, they're qualified, and then he or she can do their job, which is to tune into what they're looking for, educate them about the market, and then start showing properties. And then sort of facilitating the whole process once they decide to make an offer on a property and scheduling a home inspection and everything from there. So we have, who else am I missing? So another big part of what we talk about in the classes is budgeting. People are buying, they're signing up for a 30-year mortgage and a lot of financial responsibility there. So it's really important that people have a good understanding of their finances, so that they they really have a excuse me, a realistic, meaningful household budget. So Maria Lopez, who works with us, she and I co-teach that section, and we teach the whole thing about how people track their expenses and put together a budget. And we encourage everybody to walk around with a little notebook in their pocket like this. Here's mine. It's all beat up and as I go through my day, anytime I spend money on anything, so I go to Market Street Market and buy a sandwich, $7, Market Street Market. So as I go through my day, I write down every single expense that I have, whether it's writing a check or using a credit card or cash. And so I do that every day, and then at night, before I go to bed, I pull up an Excel spreadsheet that we give to everybody in the class. And then we just plug in the daily numbers of what you spent money on that day. I paid my rent, I bought dog food, I put gas in the car, and we have a really nice spreadsheet for people. All they have to do is plug in what they spent money for, and it'll automatically tally for the day and the week and the month. So what they end up with is one piece of paper, nicely designed, that has every single penny that they spent in a month. And so once somebody goes through that exercise of kind of tedious exercise, then they really are in a position to be able to put together a realistic household budget that's really based on what their real spending habits are, not what they think they spend money on. And invariably, people discover how much they spend getting their nails done. Certainly the obvious ones like smoking or stopping to get coffee on the way to work every day. And if you go out to lunch every day and it's $7 or $8, and you do that every day of the week, that's $35 a week. So it's $150 a month. It's close to $2,000 a year to go out for lunch.
Okay, so
that was a long sentence.
Yes. So in fact, this project is really informing the buyers. It's fighting for the interests of the buyers to make them actually know the nitty-gritties of buying a home. I can testify to that. Buying a home is an overwhelming thing that if you are not informed, you haven't done your homework, you can really maybe not go through because of the stress that it equally involves. Being a graduate of this program almost 12 years ago when I bought my home, it was very, very helpful to me.
Oh, that's great to hear.
And I think, the job that you are doing is very, very important to anyone who is willing to buy a home. I encourage them to come to the class because it will give them the necessary tools and get them prepared to go through this process. And I bet you anyone who's gone through this program is better off prepared to avoid some of the pitfalls that new home buyers go through.
Right. So. Yeah, we appreciate that. I know, particularly in the last few years, where we had a lot of predatory lenders, bad lenders, and people making bad choices, we really doubled down on educating people about the pitfalls of that, and I'm really happy to say that for the vast majority, we could count on one hand the people who made bad choices and ended up losing their homes to foreclosure. So that the people who go through these classes and get educated end up in sustainable, long-term, healthy situations, which is really our main mission.
Goodness, you're fighting for the interests of those first home buyers. So, is Project Genesis accredited?
We are. We belong to something known as the Massachusetts Homeownership Collaborative, and that's a collection of several lenders, a lot of banks are involved, but all the nonprofit agencies throughout Massachusetts that do what we do. There's about 50 different agencies that do homebuyer education. We belong to that collaborative and have a seal of approval from them. What that means is that our classes meet minimum standards. We cover the curriculum that's established. people periodically come and monitor our classes to make sure that we're covering everything and presenting it well. And most importantly, it means that we abide by a code of ethics. And the code of ethics is really set up to where our mission is really to help the buyers. So everything is disclosed, everything is transparent. There are nobody in the organization benefits financially or any other way by referring people to any particular lending institutions or real estate professionals, and so it's by having a code of ethics, it really adds a lot of credibility to the class. And mainly, what it's done over the years is it's really elevated the quality of the teaching, because of all the work that goes into building the curriculum that gets covered. So we are accredited that way, and so if somebody else takes a class in Boston, for example, but wants to buy a property in Lowell, we would honor their certificate provided they were educated in an accredited program, and then they could benefit from one of the down payment assistance programs that are available here in Lowell, for example. And so we educate people, and they may buy in Worcester, and they'll honor our certificate. So those are some of the benefits of the accreditation.
Okay, good. Why is it important for someone to take home buyer training course before buying a home?
So they do it right. So basically, they do it right. You know, one of the key things about buying a house is to ensure that someone has a successful experience, is to don't even think about the house, but to put together the right team the right team. Everybody that buys a house is going to need a lender to get a mortgage. They're going to need a home inspector to inspect the house. They're going to need an attorney to review all the legal documents and represent them through the process. And they're going to need a real estate broker to find them the right property. So we put a lot of emphasis on helping people to put together the best team. There are some wonderful, terrific, honest, talented people in this industry. And like any industry, there's some people who are probably better not being in the industry. So, but the people you work with can really make or break your experience. So we really encourage people to do their homework, shop around, look at multiple different lenders before you select a mortgage, and put together the right team. So if they have the right team of players, we know that they're going to have a good experience. And so that's one of the things that we do. We've had 13,000 people go through the classes so far.
Okay, good. So when and where are your classes held?
We do them every month. We do them, actually, we're about to start our 5th language of the classes. We've been doing the English classes since the beginning. Those are held every month, and we do those at Middlesex Community College, downtown Lowell. And Middlesex has been wonderful to us for 20 years. They've given us free use of excellent classroom facilities to teach the classes. So those are Tuesday and Wednesday nights, 2 weeks in a row, every month. So we'll do one set of classes, then we'll take a week off and do another one. And the Spanish classes we do on Saturdays. We do them every other month. We'll do 2 Saturdays of the Spanish classes. And we usually do those in our office because the classes are smaller. Sometimes we'll use Middlesex. And then we also do them every other month in Khmer. And we team up with the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association. So we work with Rasian and Ronnie Muth from CMAA, and they're wonderful. For 5 or 6 years now, we've been co-producing the classes. That's a really nice collaboration because we don't speak Khmer in the office, so they do the marketing, they bring the people, we bring the curriculum, the materials, the speakers, and then we have Khmer-speaking professionals whenever possible. And then when we don't have a Cambodian teaching the class, we'll have an English speaker with translation. So, and those are every other Saturday. And then this summer, we just introduced our first class in Arabic. And that was a really nice experience. We worked with the International Institute to do that one for Lowell's new Iraqi community. So we had about 20 people in that class, and that was 2 Saturdays as well. And starting next month, also on Saturdays, this is going to be just a sort of an experiment first time, but we're going to do sort of a financial literacy homebuyer training hybrid of a training program on a Saturday for the Burmese community that's new to Lowell.
Oh,
So English, Spanish, Khmer, Arabic, and Burmese.
oh, that's, well, Lowell is a
It's
melting
full.
pot. So it's good that the organization is catering to the needs of all Lowell and making this service available to everyone. So how can someone register for the classes?
The easiest thing is to go to our website, which is mvhp.org, as in Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership.org, and then you can just select a class to register. That works great for the English classes. For the Spanish classes, you can just call the office. The Cambodian classes we do with CMAA, so you can call the CMAA office. Our number at the Housing Partnership is 978-459-8490.
Good. What are other services and support that graduates from this program get?
One of the most important things that we do is after the classes are completed, after somebody's finished the 10 hours of training, they can come in and meet with Ed Alcantara, who's our homebuyer counselor. Ed's terrific. He is a former lender, so he knows mortgages inside and out. And so what he does is he'll sit down with an individual or a couple or a family for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it takes. So he'll meet individually with all the graduates. He meets people all day long. And what he'll do in those sessions is he'll review their credit history for them. He'll help them figure out their finances. He'll help them come up with a plan. He'll make an assessment of whether they're ready now or if they're not ready, what do they need to address, whether that could be saving more for a down payment, it could be addressing some credit issues, it could be getting better at budgeting and getting their spending under control. If they're ready to go, he'll give them an idea of what the best mortgage products out there that they would fit into, and he'll give them 3 or 4 different lenders and encourage them to go talk to those individual lenders to get pre-qualified for a mortgage. And so the counseling it's really a really big piece of what we do. We have some unbelievable stories of people that will come in and meet with Ed. I mean, a year ago we had a couple that came in. I think they had $35,000 in credit card debt, and between the two of them, and they had some college debt also, but they were also spending wildly. They really didn't have control of their finances, and so Ed sat them down and really helped them figure out what they were doing and to come up with a plan. And a year or so later, they came back to us and they were out of debt, and now were at the point where they could start saving for their down payment. So another 6 months or a year from now, they'll be good to go to buy a house.
Oh, that's
and
great.
they never would have gotten there had they not, sort of had that intervention and got a plan. So it's really we all love what we do because we really get it's so real, and we get to really help people get on the right track and turn people around. And sometimes we talk people out of buying because they're not ready for it, or I consider that a success also. If you prevent someone from getting into something that they're not ready for, that's also a success.
Yeah, good. What type of down payment do first home buyers have?
There are 2 different programs. If someone's a first-time home buyer and they're purchasing a property in the city of Lowell, we have 2 different down payment assistance programs that are available to them. The first is the federally funded home program, and that's administered by the city of Lowell, the Division of Planning and Development. And for 20 years, we've worked very closely with the city to promote that program. So what we do with that program is we promote the program in our classes, as well as the lending community and all the real estate brokers. And then we get the applications, we process the applications, we make sure everything's there, we produce the legal documents, and bring a completed eligible application to the city for them to approve. And that's a program. The City of Lowell's program provides up to $8,000 of assistance. That's money that the buyer can use toward their down payment and/or their closing costs. So the formula we use is 4% of the purchase price up to $8,000. So if somebody's buying a property for $100,000 in Lowell, they can get $4,000. If they're buying a property for $200,000, they can get up to $8,000. And then it's capped at that. And that's money that's, that gets added to the transaction, so it gives them a lot more buying power. They can save their cash for repairs or whatever. That program has to be paid back, but not until the person sells the house. So you could get that assistance and be in the house for 5 years, sell it, then pay it back then.
Without any interest?
No interest.
Oh,
Zero interest, yep. So where else can you get a no-interest loan?
No.
And that you don't have to pay back till you sell.
Yes.
And some people will stay in the house for 30 years and then they'll pay it back. But still, they got $8,000 now. 30 years from now, they'd pay you $8,000 back. So that's one program. The other program is for people who make incomes above the limits for the city program. The city program is 80% of the median for the area or below. And then there's another program that goes up to 100%, which is the Lowell Development Financial Corporation, LDFC. And they have a program that they provide up to $5,000 of assistance. So it's for people that have higher incomes, but still within the median for the area. And the way we look at this is, these are incomes that are, we say low and moderate. It's much more moderate to qualify. These are salaries that a firefighter would make, a police officer would make, a school teacher would make. So those are the people that we're serving. And so those are the down payment assistance programs are wonderful. They're funded. They work great, and I really encourage people to research them. And our website has a lot of information about the programs, and then we meet with everybody individually to help determine which program they're eligible for.
Can graduates from this program buy any houses out of in any city but Lowell?
Sure. They just have to be aware that the particular city that they choose to buy may or may not have some special programs. The certificate that people get for completing our class makes them eligible for certain mortgage products that are available anywhere in Massachusetts that are below market interest rate, excellent mortgages. So lots of people will take the class in Lowell but buy in Draycote or Chelmsford or Tewksbury, Tingsboro, somewhere in the area. And they're able to qualify for mortgages that they wouldn't have qualified by not being educated. Those are mortgages, and that's anywhere in Massachusetts. Lowell, for example, has the additional benefit of having down payment assistance. So if you do choose to buy a property in Lowell, you can get down payment assistance, whereas you wouldn't be able to do that in many other places.
Okay. How would you describe the current market conditions: foreclosure, short sale, regular sales? It is a good time. Is this a good time? But the challenging, is this a good time to buy a house?
It's probably the best time that we'll see in our lifetime. It's just an incredibly good time to be a buyer right now, for a number of reasons. It's also a very difficult time to be a buyer, which I'll explain. It's a good time because the interest rates are incredibly low. When I bought my first house, the interest rate was 17.5%. It's now under 4%. So the interest rates are really low. The property values have gone down significantly from the high, around 2008. And so the property values are down, the interest rates are really low, and there's a fair amount of inventory, but there's a fair amount of property for sale. So those are all the things that are really in a buyer's favor. It's a difficult and challenging time to be a buyer now for a couple of reasons. One is lending has become much more restrictive. The lenders, the banks, the mortgage companies have higher underwriting standards now. They higher credit score requirements. So the banks have become much more conservative than they were 5, 6 years ago. And so people really need to work on their credit and be qualified for a mortgage. So that's hard. The other thing which is kind of surprising is it's a difficult time to be a buyer now because it's very competitive out there. property value, I mean, in the last 6 months, we've really seen the market start to turn. And we've got more people in the classes, more people buying, more people with properties under agreement. So there's actually good properties priced right are selling very quickly now.
Okay, we have only about a minute to go. Could you just wrap it up and let our viewers summarize it for our viewers, please?
Okay, sure. It's the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership. We do home buyer education for first-time home buyers. If you're thinking about buying a house tomorrow, a year from now, 5 years from now, by all means, prepare for it by taking the home buyer training class and really being educated. You'll get so much out of it in terms of learning how to budget, learning what the whole process is about, so that you make really good, sustainable decisions.
On that note, I'd like to thank Mr. Jim Wilde, Executive Director of Merrimack Valley Partnership, for appearing on the African Hour and speaking about what the organization does. It does what a wonderful job to serve the needs of home buyers in the cities around. And again, I'd like to thank you for our show.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much, Fru.
Yeah. On this note, I would like to thank the technical people manning the program. On camera 1, we have Mark Ducey. On camera 2, we have Victor Dilawayo. And the director of the program behind the desk is Mr. George DeLucas. And I'd like also to thank Lowell Telecommunication for this opportunity to support the program. Thank you very much.
Okay.